The Hasselblad X2D II is an exceptional medium-format camera that combines stunning image quality with a refined design. However, to get the most out of it, you need to go beyond the basic functions and explore the small but powerful features hidden in its menus and controls. Below is a detailed guide with 20 tips and tricks that will help you unlock the full potential of this camera. 1. Quick infinity and minimum focus shortcuts when shooting landscapes, astrophotography, or close-ups. You often need to snap quickly to either infinity or the minimum focus distance. The X2D II provides an elegant solution with its distance scale. On the rear display, you can tap and hold the infinity symbol to instantly lock focus at infinity. Alternatively, you can tap and hold the close range value, usually 0.3 meters, to shift directly to the closest focusing distance. This feature saves precious time compared to rotating the focus ring manually, especially when you are under pressure or working in low light. 2. Assigning focus endpoints to custom buttons for even faster access. You can assign these focus endpoints to a physical control. Many photographers map infinity focus or minimum focus to the joystick button. With this setup, a single press of the joystick instantly snaps the lens to the chosen endpoint. This is especially useful when shooting astrophotography at night, where fine manual focusing can be tedious. 3. Using auto exposure lock for balanced lighting. The auto exposure lock function allows you to separate exposure metering from focus metering. By default, the camera ties metering to your focus point, which may lead to incorrect exposures if the subject is in bright light while the background is darker, or vice versa. With AL, you can meter from one part of the scene and then recompose to focus elsewhere. For example, lock the exposure on the sky to preserve highlight detail, then shift focus to a foreground subject without blowing out the highlights. 4. Separating autofocus drive from the shutter button. Many photographers find it beneficial to assign autofocus to a button other than the shutter release. On the X2D II, this is done by enabling the autofocus drive button. Once set, pressing the shutter button no longer triggers autofocus. Instead, you control focusing separately with the AFT button. This eliminates the risk of accidental refocusing when you have pressed the shutter, giving you more deliberate control over the shooting process. 5. Using autofocus drive for recomposition. Separation of focusing from the shutter button also enables the classic technique of focus and recompose. With AFT engaged, press the button to focus on your subject, then hold it while reframing your shot. The subject remains sharp even if you move it off-center. This method is particularly helpful when the subject is positioned away from the autofocus points or when you want to maintain a specific composition. 6. Taking advantage of smart metering with HDR mode. When HDR mode is activated, a hidden feature called smart metering becomes available. This mode functions much like matrix metering on other camera systems. Instead of relying solely on center-weighted or spot metering, smart metering evaluates the entire scene to balance highlights and shadows more effectively. It is especially beneficial when working in high-contrast conditions such as bright skies and dark foregrounds. 7. Using Auto ISO in manual mode. Earlier versions of the X2D did not support Auto ISO in manual mode, but the X2D II fixes this limitation. Now, you can select both your aperture and shutter speed manually while allowing the camera to adjust ISO automatically to achieve proper exposure. This is useful in situations with changing light, such as street photography or events, where you want consistent creative control over depth of field and motion blur without constantly adjusting ISO. 8. Customizing display overlays. Instead of toggling through multiple overlays one by one, the X2D II lets you create a custom display overlay that combines several tools on a single screen. You can include a histogram, grid lines, distance scale, and digital level all at once. This saves time and provides essential information without constant menu diving. Custom overlays are especially practical when shooting on a tripod, where you want maximum visibility of your settings and composition tools. 9. Using airplane mode to extend battery life. Wireless connectivity is convenient for tethering and file transfer, but it also drains power quickly. When you are shooting in the field and do not need wireless features, activate airplane mode. This disables all network functions and noticeably extends the battery life. For long shooting sessions or travel days, this simple trick can mean the difference between finishing a project and running out of power prematurely. 10. Switching off both EVF and LCD to save Hasselblad X2D II allows you to assign a button, such as the joystick, to toggle off both the electronic viewfinder and the rear screen. When both displays are dark, the camera consumes much less power. A half press of the shutter wakes them instantly when you are ready to shoot again. This feature is especially handy during long exposures or when waiting for the perfect light, as it avoids unnecessary battery drain. 11. Combining manual focus with autofocus drive. If you enjoy manual focusing but still want occasional assistance from autofocus, the camera provides a hybrid solution. Instead of pulling out the focus ring, which disables autofocus completely, switch to manual focus in the menu. In this configuration, you can still engage autofocus drive with a button press, and then fine-tune the result manually by turning the ring. This is ideal for macro photography or critical focus in portrait work. 12. Fine-tuning manual white balance. With X2D II gives you direct control over both temperature and tint in manual white balance mode. Once MWB is selected, use the rear control wheel to adjust the Kelvin temperature and the front wheel to shift tint. This allows you to correct color casts with precision or to create a deliberate color mood. Being able to do this without entering a submenu makes white balance adjustments quick and fluid. 13. Using the white balance picker. Another powerful tool is the white balance picker. When reviewing stored RAW images, you can select the picker and tap on a neutral reference, such as a gray card or white object. The camera then sets its temperature and tint accordingly. This method ensures extremely accurate color reproduction, which is especially valuable in product photography or other fields where color accuracy is critical. 14. Using the electronic shutter for faster speed. Sleeve shutters in Hasselblad lenses are beautifully smooth but limited to a maximum speed of 1/2000th of a second. To reach faster speeds up to 1/6000th, you can switch to the electronic shutter. This is helpful when shooting wide open in bright conditions or when freezing very fast action. Be mindful, however, of rolling shutter artifacts, particularly with moving subjects or rapid camera motion. 15. Activating touch autofocus in manual focus mode. Autofocus in manual focus mode is a small but very useful feature. Once enabled, you can tap on the rear screen to autofocus on a subject even when you are in manual mode. This provides the best of both worlds, manual precision when you want it, and quick autofocus when needed. Note that this function does not work if the focus ring has been pulled out, as that disables autofocus entirely. 16. Using image stabilization with adapted lens system. Body stabilization system is not limited to native Hasselblad lenses. When using adapted third-party lenses, such as Leica M mount glass, stabilization can still be used if you manually set the focal length in the stabilization menu. By telling the camera the focal length, it can apply the correct compensation. This makes vintage and specialty lenses far more usable, particularly in handheld situations. 17. Understanding bulb and time mode. Shutter dial includes both bulb and time modes, which are often confused. In bulb mode, the exposure lasts as long as you keep the shutter button pressed. This is useful for very controlled long exposures, but it requires holding the button, which can cause vibration unless you use a remote. Time mode, on the other hand, begins the exposure with the first press and ends it with the second press, without holding the button down. This makes it better for extended exposures such as star trails. 18. Disabling bulb and time modes when unused. If you rarely use bulb or time mode, you can disable them in the menu. This prevents the shutter dial from stopping at B and T when scrolling past the 1-second mark, allowing you to continue into longer timed exposures smoothly. For photographers who never touch these modes, disabling them keeps operation more intuitive and streamlined. 19. Always recording RAW in 16-bit. X2D II can record RAW files in either 14-bit or 16-bit. While 14-bit saves a little space, the difference in dynamic range and tonal depth is significant. Medium format sensors excel at capturing subtle gradations, and to take full advantage, you should always set the RAW bit depth to 16. This ensures maximum image quality and leaves more room for editing in post-production. 20. Accessing the Hidden Service menu. There is a hidden service menu that can be unlocked by repeatedly tapping the firmware version under the General Settings Service tab. Inside, you will find tools like Factory Reset, Clear Sensor Calibration, and Calibration Warning options. While these should be used cautiously, they can be helpful for troubleshooting or preparing the camera for resale. Final thoughts: Hasselblad X2D II is far more than a simple camera. It is a refined tool with layers of functionality designed to meet the needs of professionals who demand both precision and efficiency. By incorporating these 20 tips into your workflow, you can save time, conserve battery life, improve accuracy, and unlock features that are often overlooked. Whether you are photographing sweeping landscapes, intimate portraits, or detailed product shots, these techniques will help you use the camera to its full potential.